Hey Sinners, how you doing? Sean here, and I'm introducing this week's episode. I also look like I'm the Steve Buscemi meme. I should have a skateboard behind my back, and I'm saying, well, hello, fellow kids. So I understand how ridiculous I look. Anyway, let's get to it. This week we have none other than 2022 Bram Stoker Award-winning author Robert Ottone, and that, of course, was for The Triangle, his achievement in YA fiction. And he's got a new one out that just came out in June, and that is There's Something Sinister in Center Field. I love that title. And if you're looking for something deliciously scary from Robert on an adult level, you can't do any better than this vile thing we created. Oh my goodness gracious. It will curl your toes, not downward, but upward. Crack, crack, crack. But you'll thank him for it, because it's so freaking scary. Oh, Shannon and I just adore Robert. He is one of the nicest, sweetest, funniest people that we've ever had the pleasure of having on the podcast, and we plan on having him back and back and back again. We just might make him third chair. Who knows? Shannon might be looking to replace me with him. That's how good he is. Anyway, this week we talk about 1975's blockbuster movie Jaws. And I just wanted to put this out there. Unlike other podcasts that are all great, that talk about Jaws, and they go into the behind-the-scenes drama, and nothing worked, and everything broke, and Steven Spielberg was eating Tums by the truckload, we've heard those podcasts a million times. And again, they're fantastic. Love them all. I'll listen to them all day long. We're taking a different route here. We're really talking about Jaws, the cultural significance, what it meant to us in a family dynamic, because this movie is very special for Robert and myself in regard to watching it with our dads. So we get into that, and Robert's here, so you can rest assured we really talk about Jaws for about 14 minutes, and then the other hour and 20, we go in 11 billion different directions, all of them highly entertaining because Robert's talking about them, and all of them incredibly fun because Robert's talking about them. So sit back, enjoy, here we go, Robert Ottone and Jaws.
Hey Sinners, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts.
Woohoo! And today we have the one and only, and I mean that truly, the one and only Robert Ottone. So Robert, it's so great to have you back on. We had a blast with you when we discussed Halloween 3. I think it's possibly one of my favorite Sinful Cuts episodes because we talk about the movie for about 12 minutes and we spend an hour and 20 just cutting it up and being goofy.
Yeah, that tracks with my usual podcast appearances. They go chaotic pretty quickly. I'm glad that one falls in line. I listened to it again. I've listened to that one twice. And Halloween 3 is so good. I feel sometimes I think of these movies and stuff that we all love and talk about and analyze like forever. Like I rewatched Jaws, the movie we're going to talk about today. Usually I watch it right after Memorial Day, but I've just been busy, and the wife and I watched it, I think, on the 4th of July.
Nice.
Which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
It's become a mainstay. It's a 4th of July watch now.
Yeah. And I was thinking, some of these movies everybody's talked about so much, and it's like, if you're not having fun in the tangential talking about the movie, then it's almost not it's like you're not doing a service, because we're there's been so many making ofs about Jaws, and there's been so many write-ups about Halloween 3. It's like everybody knows Halloween 3 didn't make a lot of money because there was no Michael Myers, and it ruined the idea of doing it as an anthology, blah 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 blah. 20 years later, hipsters were like, actually, it's the best one, blah, 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 which of course is not true, but everybody has to have an original take or whatever. It's like some horror out there. I was talking to them because they listened to the episode, and I'm, it's always nice to hear when people listen to things that you're on.
This is true.
And they were like, they're like, oh, Halloween 3 is so clearly the best one. And I was like, yeah, how many of those did they make? Oh, right. Only one. Right. The guy in the white mask, which actually generates revenue. That's the important one. Got it. So it's just like the bad takes. Sometimes people have the worst possible takes. Anybody who doesn't think Jaws, I'm going to say it right now. Anybody who doesn't think Jaws is the greatest American movie of all time can go fuck themselves, because it is.
I co-sign on that.
I mean, there's just, it's not look, you can talk about Citizen Kane and everything. Like Citizen Kane is a perfect movie. Jaws is a perfect movie. But at the end of the day, one sort of ruined its creator's career, and the other one launched the creator's career. And
That's
I
a great
think
point.
that's more important. And at the end, and it, Steven Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker that's ever lived. Everybody's going to be like, oh, what about Robert Eggers? Fucking Ari Aster. No, wrong. He can buy and sell them like they're nothing. Stop it. Stop it. It's Steven Spielberg. Just like, who's the greatest horror author of all time? It's Stephen King. Shut the fuck up. Stop it. There's no other answer. There's no other answer. Enough.
My new favorite thing is that when you're depicting an asshole, they have to be smoking a Prince cigarette.
You know what it is? In my head, it's one of those Dejarum clove cigarettes, or it's like an e-vape. It's one of those two. It's like,
oh my God, I'm crying.
God. So, and I used to smoke Dejarums. I used to be one of those people. I feel like film people have like, they go through the obvious stages, and it's like, oh, congratulations, you've discovered Kevin Smith. Oh, congratulations, you've discovered Quentin Tarantino. And they either move on from there and become like a real film fan and they leave that shit in the dust, or they stay with it forever and become really fucking annoying. And it's
really annoying.
Holy God.
Oh, but I'll cop to it, Robert. I was dressed head to toe in black, watching The Bicycle Thief at 19, spouting off my opinion that no one asked for.
Right.
But
right.
Then thank God, then I found John Carpenter, and
right.
I got out of that.
Well, it's funny because like, what's his face? Oh my God, Jordan Peele had that great tweet. Someone was like, "Oh, Jordan Peele's the greatest living director," and even the greatest living horror director. And Jordan Peele's like, "Hi, John Carpenter's still alive."
Yeah.
He's like, "No, it's John Carpenter right now because he's still kicking." So technically, he's still the best living.
My big thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I would like to think that, and maybe this is just me always trying to have a positive mind or whatever, but I would think like like the Robert Eggers and Ari Asters, of today, I would like to think that they are striving to be like, and learn under Steven Spielberg, under his works, and, or any other writer wants to strive, not necessarily to be the next Stephen King, but but that's what inspired them to create their work. So I do like to think of it that way. I don't know. That's just, again, that's just me trying to be, positive about it, because it's like, where did it come from? It came from the great masterpieces of cinema and literature that came before them. And now they want to they want a shot at it. And I think that's fair.
Sure.
And in their defense, sometimes the fans can be a little, over emotional.
You think?
I may have been guilty of it from time to time, especially when defending Jaws, like, as we said before, when like a couple of years ago, many years ago, they did the 100 horror countdown.
Mm-hmm.
Remember on TV?
There's a couple though. Hang on, there's a couple. I love those.
It was like 20 years ago.
It's the one that was on Bravo, the 100 Scariest Movie Moments. Which
Jaws made it to number 1.
They got the top 3 correct, but they got it in the wrong order. They got it. Number 1 was correct, but 2 and 3 I thought should have been reversed. This shit is burned into my memory because I've been thinking about it for 20 years and like, why? 2 and 3 make no sense. So I'm with you, but please continue. I know. I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
No. Like, just because obviously we're going to unpack Jaws in just a second, but Jaws got the number 1. And I remember there were so many people that I talked to that were shocked about that answer. And I looked at them like they were the biggest fucking morons on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you, I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, what do you mean? Like that movie broke so many fucking records. You think of a shark or any shark movie, you're immediately playing one fucking tune in your fucking head. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I know you are.
Yes. And also,
we all did it as children in the pool, like
Yeah.
to play around with each other. Like it always goes back to this movie.
name
And yeah.
name another movie that awakened a legitimate primal fear in the consciousness of every fucking person on the
Yeah.
planet more than Jaws. If you're one of these people who's like, oh, I go to the beach, I'm not afraid of sharks, fuck you, you're an idiot. Because,
Yeah. I'm
spoilers,
terrified.
the ocean is their domain.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
cool, you're not afraid of sharks. That's great. You know how many we live on Long Island, right? Which is
Mhm.
essentially as close to Amity Island as like Montauk would be. Everybody's like, oh, it's filmed in Martha's Vineyard. It's like, cool, the real life Quint lived in fucking Montauk, so get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to say that every time, and I'm sure it's like this for you too, because it sure as hell is for me, that you look at the water, sharks in the water, sharks in the water. Like,
Every time.
could be 20 feet, could be 25 feet, could be 5 feet. I went out on my, this is a really silly story, but a bunch of years ago, a friend of mine who's loaded bought a mini yacht. And to celebrate, we were like, let's go out on the mini yacht. And then just the boys. When we go out on the yacht, I get in my underwear because I didn't bring a bathing suit. It was like one of the only guys that didn't have a bathing suit. And I go in the water. I was hammered. And I'm swimming around in the ocean. And we're having a good time, blah, blah, blah. Get back on the yacht, put on my clothes again, and we go to this like dockside bar restaurant or whatever, and we see like a small group of people all crowding around this one, I guess you would just call it like a jetty or like sort of like off the dock or whatever. And we go over, and there's this kid and his uncle and his dad, and there's a 7-foot thresher shark dead on the dock or whatever. And we were like, oh, what's that or whatever. And the kid was like, I just caught this. It was swimming around over there. And he points. It's exactly where we had just been swimming 20 minutes earlier.
Ugh.
Okay. I'm going to tell you my story, the primal fear story. So 2 things. First, Robert, I'm totally stealing your bit, so I'm giving you full credit. I can't stand it when people are like, Jaws is an adventure movie, not a horror movie. And I'm like, go to Montauk, get in a boat, go 2 miles offshore, jump in the water. Now tell me if you're in a fucking horror movie or an adventure movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you're going to feel is get my ass back in the boat, get my ass back in the boat. If you're having an adventure, you don't feel that.
Yeah.
So,
right.
As long as my second story. So I take offense at that. It makes me bananas. This is one of the, if not the greatest horror movie ever made. It's one of. So my story is I'm surfing with my brother. This is easily 15, 20 years ago. And we're all at Cupsog Beach in West Hampton. And I wipe out. And I really wipe out. So I go down, down, down. I'm down deep. And then all of a sudden I just get this feeling that, and I can't see anything, but I'm not alone. There was just that primordial, caveman, yikes, here's the saber-tooth tiger. And I got up, I got on my board, I screamed at everyone, and we headed into the beach. Now, I didn't see anything. This story doesn't end with, and then the fin broke the surface of the water. But there was something there with me. And my senses picked up on it. I couldn't visually see it, but my brain knew something was there. And it was like, well, sucks to be you. I'm going to go now. And it is truly one of the scariest moments of my life. And I couldn't, like I said, there's no resolution. I just know that I wasn't alone. And in my heart, I know that something was looking at me, and they have every right to. It's their home.
Yep.
But something was like, oh, a snack.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even just imagine, and this happens all the time here. People get stung by jellyfish. And we have like aggressive jellyfish here on the island.
Yeah.
Like, even getting stung by those little bastards, that shit hurts. And it can really,
hell yeah.
Like, if you're a young enough child in the water and get stung, spoilers, you could die. Like, a little kid could die from a jellyfish sting. Like, it's shit's hardcore. The ocean is not a place to mess around with. Like, we discover new shit in the ocean all the time. And I think, the only movies that have done, and I'm a sucker for these movies because they're so different and they lean heavier into like the adventure aspect of horror. The Meg and the Meg 2 are both preposterous, but also at the same time, they're fun and they know what they are. They're not trying to be Jaws. They're just like, what if Jaws was big? Like what if
Yeah.
it was much bigger? Like, meh. And then the Meg 2 is like, what if it was also Jurassic World? And it's like, okay, cool, fun. That's great. I love it. We have dinosaurs now. Cool.
Yeah.
What are we even doing? Like, but that's like the fun of those movies. And it's like Jason Statham's on a fucking wave racer thing, whatever those are called. What are those things called? Jet skis. And he's got,
Jet skis,
wave racer. What the fuck am I talking about? Like,
oh, wait till you hear what I said before. I was trying to think of 1,000 horsepower. I kept saying horse engine. So, yeah, it's
And powerhouse.
what are you talking about? That 1,000 horse engine. What was that? What were you talking about before this?
Deep Blue Sea was another anniversary I just mentioned on Shortcuts. Yeah, so because those sharks. Yeah, I liked Deep Blue Sea, and those sharks for the most part were practical.
Yeah.
But they were like, they went into making them like a car, and they genuinely were able to swim, like I think like 30 miles per hour for a good portion. So people were literally like, is that one real? And they're like, no, I think that's the mechanical one. And sometimes they got confused. But
my wife
favorite
loves
things about Jaws. One of my favorite things is they tell Joel Alves, hey, man, make this 25-foot great white shark. And he makes it. And it's beautiful. And then they're like, okay, put it in salt water. And he's like, what now?
Yeah.
Salt who?
Like, you're going to get this motherfucker wet? Like, it's not. It just doesn't. Everybody who's like discovering film or like getting an appreciation of film should just read Bill Gottlieb. Carl Gottlieb's book.
Carl Gottlieb, yeah.
Yeah, read his great making of Jaws book, which was basically like his journals during the making of the movie. And he talks so much about how the shark does not work all the time and how they have to redo stuff. There's nothing like, what are we going to say, right? Like, well, the shark didn't work that well, so they couldn't put it in the movie as much as Spielberg wanted to. Blah, 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 blah. Like, we know. Everybody knows that. And it's fine. It's fine. But like, what I find interesting is how, and we always talk about like, oh, the book was so much better. In this case, not true at all. The movie is so superior. No offense, Peter Benchley.
So much better.
What's that?
It's so much better, the movie. So much better.
Yeah, light years better, and in every fathomable way. Losing the mafia subplot, goodbye. Losing Hooper sleeping with Brody's wife, goodbye. Great.
Yeah, the affair.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right? Yeah.
It's just.
I think even Peter Benchley agrees with that, honestly. Yeah. Like, he was like, I can't believe this I can't believe what this became. Like, he literally, like, quickly, like, I think he had it on, right? Didn't he have, like, this story on the back burner and he had to write it to, like, complete his contract?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, well, this is the only idea I have. So he just fucking wrote it to complete the contract. And, like, who knew it was, like, a perfect little seed that would explode into, what we know of it being today.
Robert, you summed it up perfectly. There's so many books, documentaries, they made a play. There's so much out there about the making of the movie. Sinful Cuts, with you as our gracious co-host today, we're not going to overturn something that no one's talked about, to death. Yeah. So what I'd like to talk about, because I know that this movie has a special place in your heart, is what the movie means to you from a personal perspective. Same with you, Shannon. I mean, guys, as much as I don't want to admit it, I'm the oldest one here on screen today, so I'll actually let you guys know what it was like to see it in the theater.
Oh,
that's yeah. And 1975, what it looked like in socially, it was all over TV. Everyone was wearing Jaws t-shirts. We went that following Easter to Ireland, and all my cousins, none of which have ever seen the ocean, all were wearing Jaws t-shirts. It's like it just transcended anything that we had seen before and became a cultural phenomenon for really the first time. It takes a lot of shit for that it shouldn't have to. It's not Jaws' fault that people don't like a Phantom Menace. Like, it's, you can't just say because it's a blockbuster, fuck Jaws.
Right.
Look what you started. it's a singular movie that had a moment in time, which honestly has come close to being duplicated, like with Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things like that. But I mean, it was just the perfect moment in time for this to just explode. And yeah, let's start getting into it. So, Robert, I'd like to start with you. I know from a personal perspective, this is a very special movie. So let's talk about that. Let's unpack that.
Yeah. So I probably will cry. I woke up crying this morning because it's my dad's birthday, the day that we're recording this, July
Well, I
20th.
already cried because I saw your Instagram post, so I started crying when I saw that. So we're both gonna cry because I lost my dad. I lost my dad too, so there's
Yeah.
gonna be crying.
And I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you. We'll support to you and support to me. We'll support each other.
Yes.
So, I was a little kid, and, when it came time to like watch my parents didn't really hide movies from me. For whatever reason, I was 10 and Pulp Fiction came out. They didn't want me to see Pulp Fiction, I think because it was so violent at the time, but I still did see it when it hit video or whatever, so it really wasn't that big a deal. But like, that's really literally the only time I can remember my parents like attempting to censor the material that I was consuming. But I remember watching Jaws as a little kid with my dad. And I was one of those kids who was like very lucky to grow up with an in-ground pool with a slide and a diving board and stuff like that. And like, I would go in the pool. I almost drowned in that pool when I was I was like 3. That was pretty crazy. I wasn't supposed to go in there, but I saw a frog and it jumped in the pool and I got really excited. I was like, oh, I want to get that frog. And I almost drowned. And my brother, who was very athletic at the time, jumped over the fence in one hop and dove in and saved me, which was crazy. But like, also, I just remember my dad showing me this movie that he loved and my mom loved too, but this was like my dad's movie. And we watched it and we'd watch it over and over and over because, I guess I probably saw it when I was really little, maybe 2 or 3 or 4. And so it would have been 87, 88 that I would have seen it possibly for the first time. But I almost have like memories of it like coded into my DNA. I just always remember Jaws being there and watching it and loving it and being enthralled by it every single time I watched it. And I think my dad, knowing that, he would share Jaws with me more and more and more. And, of course, I saw the sequels. I saw Jaws 4 in theaters. Obviously, not the experience that you had seeing it in 75 on the big screen. But, like, there's so much that I love about Jaws that I kind of, every time something special would happen with Jaws, I would move heaven and earth to make an experience happen with my dad. And one of those experiences was seeing Jaws on the big screen in East Hampton at Guildhall with Steven Spielberg and Roy Scheider in attendance with
Oh,
screenwriter David Koepp as the Q&A host for it.
oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was a really magical evening sharing that with my dad, seeing it with Spielberg there. And there was a really cute moment. And I still have, they gave away bottles of water, special made bottles of water that had the Jaws logo and stuff on. I still have those. But one of the really beautiful moments of that night was there was a little boy in the audience with, I'm assuming, his parents. And he, during the Q&A, asked the question to Spielberg and Roy Scheider, it was so scary. How did you make the shark look so real? And Spielberg got like this really sweet smile on his face. And he's like, I love you for asking that. And that means the world that you think it looks so real. And it was just really cute. Like, it was a really nice moment. And like being in the presence of the master was a huge deal. And I don't think that's something that I'll ever forget, was sharing that with my dad. There's like a bunch of moments related to Jaws, and there's a bunch of moments related to my dad that I'm always going to remember. And that's definitely one of them. And we did get to see it on the big screen one more time before he passed away with one of those Fathom Events screenings, and that was really cool because they did like the introduction by Turner Classic Movies and stuff. And that was really exciting, and it was done in HD, because the version we saw at Guildhall was an original print from 1975.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, it was very cool. And then Roy Scheider passed not super long after that, which was a bummer, because I love Roy Scheider. I think William Friedkin has the best quote about Roy Scheider, is that he's the best second banana in Hollywood. Like, he's always like the best supporting actor kind of guy,
yeah.
which is true. You think, and as I got older and started like studying film and thinking more about film and discovering like, and also, to be fair, like the 1970s was the best year for film, music, television, um, all art
Yeah.
form. In the 1970s, it was the best. Like, we'll never have that again. It's only going to get worse, and it only has gotten worse. But like, discovering more and more that sort of thing in my own like weird headcanon that I constantly think about with Jaws is that after the events of the French Connection, Cloudy leaves the NYPD and goes to Amity Island under the assumed name of Martin Brody. And it's like a silly thing, but it's like every time that opening, when he wakes up with his wife, I'm always like, that's Cloudy from the French Connection. Like, after you kill an FBI agent, there's only so many places you can go, and Amity Island would be one of them. Even though he didn't kill the FBI agent, his partner did in the French Connection, but still. Yeah, so I don't know. I think about Jaws all the time. Jaws is a huge inspiration to something my agent has on submission right now, and I just love everything about it. There's not a bad. Sometimes I think of like movies in terms of like, well, can you take a frame of this movie and put it in like a museum and present it as art to, like, the pretentious art devouring masses or whatever. And I think that there's one of those in certain filmmakers movies, but I think with Jaws it's like every frame is
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's
Agreed.
nothing that should be changed. There's nothing that could ever be done better. And there's just nothing that will ever be done better. We could scratch the surface for it. Like, the closest we've ever come to a new Steven Spielberg was M. Night Shyamalan. That's the closest we've ever come. And he dropped the
Yeah.
ball. And it's not his fault that he dropped the ball. Film has changed. Streaming has ruined box office. It's, everything is different now. We'll
Yeah.
never
Everything's in
see.
flux.
What's that?
Everything's in flux. We don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah.
So it's so hard for a filmmaker to stick the landing,
Yeah.
career wise.
And
Yeah.
one of the last conventions I got to take my dad to, I posted a couple pictures on Instagram today. I took him to, I think it was Monster Mania in Jersey. I think that's what it was. My brain is foggy, but like, he got to meet Nick Castle, which was really cool, as the original Michael Myers, and like that I got to meet John Milius, and getting to meet John Milius and asking him, I'm going to tell this story, and it's not my story, but it's a story I'm obsessed with. There's and maybe this is something a lot of Jaws people don't know, but it's like one of those fun stories that doesn't always get talked about with Jaws. And I remember sharing the story and my dad learning the story, and all of us, the two of us, just laughing because it's so absurd. But Spielberg, George Lucas, John Milius, and Brian De Palma are all hanging out one night, and they're drinking. I'm sure they're smoking cigarettes. They might be smoking more than that. I don't know. But they're talking about movies that they have that they're working on. George Lucas is like, oh, well, THX 1138. And, he's doing that whole thing. And John Milius is like, apocalypse now, motherfuckers. And Brian De Palma's like, I'm very reserved, and I just do Alfred Hitchcocky type things that people will look back on and say are problematic. But so, like, the four of them are hanging out, and Spielberg's like, I just did this fucking movie with the truck, and it was really good and whatever. But I'm working on this movie now about a shark, and they just built the shark, and you guys want to go see it on the Universal lot? and it's like 1:00 in the morning. So, do you guys know this story?
No.
Oh, okay.
Keep going. I've
So-
never heard it.
The four of them get together. I think they get Milius's truck because, of course, he has a truck, and
Of course he does. Yeah.
they drive to the Universal lot. And because it's like, they've all got some cachet. They're the new Hollywood, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The only thing that would make this story even better is if William Friedkin was there to fuck with all them and show them his doctor and be like, look what I got, dickheads. But like, that's the only thing. So they go to the Universal lot. They get their way onto the lot in the middle of the night, basically. And they go into the area, the warehouse where the shark is. And they're looking at the shark and they're all like, holy shit, like this thing's really cool. It's huge. And, it has like the hollow side so they could see all the mechanism and stuff like that, all the mechanics of it or whatever. And Spielberg's like, yeah, this is how it works. And they turn it on and Spielberg starts fucking with the controls. And the thing catches fire. Yeah, it starts sparking. It catches fire. It breaks. They put the fire out really quickly. And then they book it out of there. So as they're back in the truck or car, whatever it is, Milius and George Lucas are both busting Spielberg's balls like crazy. They're like, yeah, this movie's going to be great, Steven. Your career's not going to be ruined at all. And the only one who was really sweet and supportive was De Palma, and supposedly was like rubbing Spielberg's neck and being like, Steven, it's going to be okay. This is going to be a wonderful movie. That's a work of art that they made for you in there. They're going to fix it. It's okay. And it turned out De Palma was right. And like, but it's just one of those like weird stories that's like, how did these guys do this? So when I met Milius at the convention, and he couldn't really speak all that well anymore. I think he had a couple strokes or something. And he's signing my copy of Red Dawn because I'm that guy. And
Nice.
I said to him, I was like, can I ask you a question? And he was like, sure. And I was like, is the story about you, De Palma, Lucas, and Spielberg almost destroying the shark one night true? And he started laughing. And he was like, I don't know. And again, he said it, and his like assistant, or I think might have been related to him, also added to it because he was again, he was having a hard time. He confirmed that it was totally true.
I love it.
And that they really were going after Steven that night. So like it's apparently true that they almost destroyed the shark from Jaws before it even touched the water. So
Jesus.
I always loved that story, and my dad always got a kick out of that story, and so do I. And the fact that I got it confirmed by Milius to his face is pretty crazy.
That's fucking hilarious.
The amount when people tell stories about shooting film, invariably it's always about the fuck ups and the near misses or the absolute disasters. Because I mean, look, they're so entertaining. I'm just obsessed with film, and I pore over these things. I've never heard more near misses and disasters than Jaws.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like how the film has turned out to be this incredible classic. It defies all the odds.
Yeah.
Like everything went wrong. And we've discussed it. The stories have been told countless times, so we don't need to go over them, but every single thing went wrong.
Yeah. Do you know the story of the orca almost sinking in the middle of filming? Did you hear about that one?
How many times?
This one particular time, there was a lot of, it might have been the first time because obviously panic ensues. But the way I remember hearing about it on, whichever interview or documentary I saw it on, Spielberg immediately, was just like, oh my God, like, because the actors were on the orca. And Spielberg is just like, oh, like, like everyone save the actors, like you get help, send help, SOS, doing whatever, thinking of the people. And apparently, who was it? John R. Carter, I believe, was like, fuck the actors, get the equipment.
Yeah.
Save the equipment. Fuck the actors. They can swim. Get the fucking equipment. But luckily, everyone and everything was saved apparently. But so it's Yeah, so obviously that probably was like more than one time, but yeah, but whatever. Me, I'm assuming that was the first time because everybody fucking
Well,
panicked.
Scheider had like a hammer. He had like multiple tools in the scene that they were shooting when the shark busts through the plate glass window when he's in the cockpit of the boat at the end, because he's like, this is a fucking disaster. I need a way to get out of here
Yeah.
because everything has demonstrated that this is going to sink with me in it. You
Yeah.
know,
Not to
it's
mention
just
the
cursed.
1970s electrical wiring
Yeah.
in water with a
Oh,
guy who's I think he has an Oscar, but I think it came later. I think The Boys in the Band, or what's the movie where he played Fosse? Jesus
Oh, all
Christ.
that jazz.
All That Jazz. That's it. Didn't he win the Oscar for playing Fosse and All That Jazz?
He got nominated, but I think he lost.
Lame. But
Yeah, so lame.
you have a guy who's like a legendary second banana, as Bill Friedkin would call him, in the water with a giant shark and everything. So I saw the play on Broadway, so I got to see it. I wasn't going to miss that for the world.
yeah.
And there's a lot. First of all, it was amazing and it was hysterical. They really make Richard Dreyfuss look like an asshole, which I think history has probably proven to be accurate. But
Yep.
there's a really great part with Scheider, where he's just trying to. If you notice, he's very tan in the movie, obviously, but like on the times where he was off, he would just tan. Like that's apparently like one of the things that he do, and he would do it on the deck of the Orca when they weren't using it. And so in the play, he's on the deck of the Orca, he's tanning, and he's just like he's in his like swim it's almost like a Speedo, but it's not as like tight or as preposterous as a Speedo, but it's like that. And he's like finally set up, everybody's gone, Shaw's gone, Dreyfuss is gone, he's by himself and he's getting some rays and he's hanging out. And then they call for him to go and have to film something. And they're like, we're sending the water taxi to you right now. And he has this like meltdown on his own, and he like takes the bat that he threatens Quint with, and he's like banging it on the deck of the Orca. And the night that I saw it, the bat broke in half while the actor is banging it on the thing, and it was so awesome and it was so funny. And it's like, yeah, that I can understand why he'd be frustrated. He has like one moment's peace and then it gets ruined. But yeah, it's just so perfect how some of these things work. And then like then you feel bad when you hear about a movie where everything goes wrong and the end product is dog shit, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not like I used to be like one of those people like, oh, that movie's terrible and it's just terrible and that's it. But now when I see something, I'm like, I can find something to enjoy and everything, because like nobody goes into making a movie thinking like, well, fuck this, like I don't care. Everybody wants to put out a good piece of work, because if the work is
Yeah.
good, it's going to lead to you getting more work.
Yeah. I've learned to
It's
appreciate movies that I didn't enjoy initially
Yeah.
after hearing about what the fuck they went through to get it to feel like it's just like, wow, obviously a miracle that you even got this made.
Yep.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Like
So
I mean,
sometimes
I've
it pans out, sometimes it doesn't.
completely changed my opinion of Joe Chappelle, who made Halloween 6. I used to hate that motherfucker because I read a quote once that said he was like, I took Donald Pleasance out of this movie because he was boring. And it turned out to be Donald Pleasance's last movie, obviously. So, like, well, you're a dick. And then it turned out he never said that. And he was supposedly fighting to put Pleasance in more because it was his last movie. And one of these schmuck producers was like, no, he's so boring, we got to take him out. So it's
yeah.
like for years, I hated this guy. And then I saw behind the scenes stuff about
Oh,
Halloween 6 that completely changed my mind. So then, like, when you hear about all the nonsense that happened during the making of it, just that movie alone ends up with a really muddled quality feature. The fact that Jaws turned out perfect in the end
Yeah.
with all of this stuff is a testament truly to the master. And I'm gonna call him the master multiple times because he fucking is.
He is.
Like it's a testament to him how good he made this. And I know I hate revisionist film nerd bullshit when they say like, oh well, this guy's lost a step, or this guy is this, that, the other thing. When I walked out, the last Spielberg movie that I saw in theaters, I think, was Ready Player One. And that's also one of the last Spielberg movies my dad saw in theaters. And I remember the first time I saw that movie, I was with a friend of mine, and I walked out and I was like, Spielberg has created an entirely new film medium with this. And I don't think people are ever going to appreciate it. And he took what James Cameron did with Avatar and added to it. And it's remarkable. And now we're seeing Marvel do the same thing with filming all their shit on that computer set, which I don't like, but I do understand why they do it. And
Yeah.
I remember having this thought, like, he still got it. Spielberg still got it. I don't know how old he is. I don't think I want to know how old he is, but it's so thrilling when the master returns to do something. And I remember thinking, like, in watching Ready Player One and seeing the Overlook rebuilt and hearing
Yeah.
how he did it. And I was like, this is a guy who still loves the medium that he's working in. This is not a guy who's gotten disillusioned with what he's doing. And it's so thrilling to see. And it's like, you know what? Like, he is the master. Like, we can talk about James Cameron and stuff. Like, you know, I would say James Cameron is almost a master as well. I would say Ridley Scott, possibly a master as well. But I think Ridley Scott's got more misses than hits personally. Whereas Cameron and Spielberg do not, in my mind. It's just thrilling to see guys like this at the height of their game. Spielberg has not lost a step since the age of 26, is what I'm trying to say with Jaws.
Right.
Even go further back to Duel. Duel is a masterpiece as well. And if there's film nerd fans, whatever, that you have not seen Duel, you've lost your mind, because Duel is expert tension done on a shoestring budget.
I fucking love that movie. I love that movie.
There are zero directors except for Spielberg where when they announced that he was making a new movie and this movie was going to be a UFO film, that I immediately was transported back to childlike enthusiasm. I was a kid. I was immediately a kid. Oh my God. I don't even know when the movie's coming out, but it was in my mind. I'm like, that's going to be the movie of the summer. Like, you're just a kid again. And there's so few moments that you can have like that, when you become an adult, where you just get magically whisked away, and you have to appreciate it. But Robert, to your point before about, like, we review films. Now we get to pick those films, but as we're dissecting the movie that we pick, we talk about other films, and you've never seen two people, myself and Shannon, twist ourselves into pretzels more than when we are talking about a film that's not very good, because it's just as hard to make a bad film as it is to make a good film. To your point, no one goes in to make a piece of garbage, and we feel bad. We want to give honest opinions. Again, dime store opinions, because they're our own, but we want to give our opinion, but we always go out of our way to say, look, the people involved in this, they woke up every day, they left it all on the court, like, they gave their effort and their blood, sweat, and tears. Sometimes it works and that's magical, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's tragic, but we always appreciate the effort that goes in. And I think even after Jaws was made and it becomes this cultural phenomenon, I think people still had PTSD with it who were involved in the making of it. I mean, Roy Scheider, the poor son of a bitch, he was the only one contractually tied to this thing where he had to do Jaws 2, which I love. But, he's like, get me out of this fucking shark franchise. He's like, get me out of here. And Robert, I know I told you the story when you were on previously, but I love nothing more than repeating myself. But I was driving through East Hampton one day, or I'm cutting through, like, Watermill, like one of the smaller towns, and there's Roy Scheider waiting on the Hampton Jitney, and I just did like a triple take, like, what the fuck is Chief Brody doing here? And if Chief Brody's here, I'm getting out of town. I'm going inland. I mean, there's no mistaking that. I mean, he's handsome as hell, man. That
Oh yeah.
even he was well into his 70s, I'm sure by then. But just that jaw and his stature, and he's waiting on a bus, and I'm like, look at that guy. I see you.
Yeah. I I think about, like, talking about like nostalgia and stuff like that, and I kind of live by the quote that like nostalgia is the poison to creativity. It poisons the well of creativity. But when I see Spielberg stuff, when it's the nostalgia of Spielberg specifically, I sometimes have a hard time because that kind of Spielberg nostalgia and that kind of like his particular brand of what he does, or like his particular kind of art form that he does, reminds me so much of my dad, and it's tied so much to him that I have a hard time. Like, I can't watch Ready Player One. I have not watched Ready Player One in its entirety since my dad passed away, because I think about watching it in the theater with him, and I think about like, there's that little tinkle of and like, I'm not a huge Back to the Future guy, but when I hear the little tinkle of the Back to the Future score when Wade freezes time in the nightclub scene in that movie, and then like, when I see the Akira motorcycle, and I see the DeLorean, and I see like the Iron Giant. I didn't even give a shit about the Iron Giant. I've never fucking seen the Iron Giant. I'm not a child. Why would I watch that movie? But like, I appreciate what it means to other people. And then when I see like the Ninja Turtles, and I see Batman, and I see all these things, and I'm like, this is all stuff from my youth as a kid, and all of that is tied to my dad, because
Yeah.
he made all of that happen. Like, he took me to see Batman 89 opening weekend. And so when I see Batman 89, I think of my dad. I see Jaws, I think of my dad. And so then when I see all these things, the confluence of these things coming together in a movie, and I know we're not supposed to be talking about Ready Player One, but I love Ready Player One. But like, when I see all of these things come together, it's less a personal thing. Like, I think when people experience nostalgia, it's like a weird personal reaction that like, oh, I had a Rubik's Cube. Oh, cool. But like, for me, it's more about like how my dad made me feel, and how my dad sacrificed and worked so hard to give me these experiences as a kid. And that's how nostalgia hits me, more than it's about like, and like, just look around my office behind me, right? Like, here's Michael Myers. That's tied to my dad. Oh, here's my dad as a bobblehead. Here's like Leatherface. Like, all these things matter to me, but like, they matter to me because of what they really mean, not like, man, I really like that movie. It means more than that. And that's why I say like Jaws is so coded in my DNA, because it's like, it's the only movie that like I would really like physically get into something with somebody with. Um if they were to be like, "Oh, well, Alien is better." I'd be like, "Fuck you." And it would be on, because it's just not. And to go back to Shannon's point about the top 3 scariest movie moments, with Jaws coming out of the water being number 1, spot on, 100% correct. Jaws coming out of the shark coming out of the water in Jaws is the scariest thing that's ever happened. But I think number 2 was the alien and Alien doing something, I guess emerging from the dude's chest or some shit. And then number 3 was The Exorcist. I don't remember what. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I think you are right, and I think I remember disagreeing with that, but this may have to be a whole nother episode, but the way you're speaking about this movie with your dad, I have a story with linked to my dad with The Exorcist.
Oh, see, I need to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting. My dad, he would watch The Exorcist with me, but he wasn't the biggest fan of The Exorcist for some reason. And I never really talked to him too much about it. I don't, but he loved The French Connection, and he loved other Bill Friedkin stuff, and I never really like unraveled why he didn't love The Exorcist in the way that I loved it. But my mom
Okay.
loves The Exorcist. So there was like weird balance there. But with Jaws, it was everything. And like, you know, it's hard. I can't even imagine, and again, Sean, this goes to your point. What could ever have the cultural impact that Jaws had, other than Star Wars? We'll give Star Wars its flowers.
We'll give, yep, sure.
But really, like, cultural impact, when do we think, in your two opinions, we'll start with Shannon, what was the last movie that had a massive cultural impact? Like, we mentioned Jaws, we mentioned Star Wars. Is there one after that?
I'll go back to The Exorcist because I think that had a cultural impact of some nature. People fainting out of the movie theaters and whatnot. But following those two movies, I can't really think of one other than more of like pop culture stuff. Like, when Jurassic Park came out, like dinosaurs were everywhere, but it's like, like we wanted to embrace it, where, these films were like, everyone was like running to the church to repent for sins they probably didn't commit yet, or friggin', nobody, I know I would like dabble like my feet in the ocean, but I was not a person to go out on a boat and swim in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like I don't have like any kind of, close encounters with a shark of any kind, because I didn't fucking go in the water ever. Ever.
And
There's been times when like in the deep end of my own pool, like sometimes just like not feeling anything under my feet, I get freaked out and I'm like, I'm gonna have a doggy paddle.
Yeah. There's that poster. There's that one poster for the first Meg movie, and it's just the fucking mouth of the Meg coming up from underneath somebody. And how many times, Shannon, in the pool have you fucking thought, I'm going to look down and there's going to be a mouth underneath me?
All the time. Every time.
I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm going to think that the next time I'm in a pool. I haven't been in a pool in about 4 years, but I think of that all the time. And you know what? I'm going to say Jurassic Park might be the last one. That was, and maybe Sean, I want to hear what you have to say too, but I'm going to jump on with, I think Shannon's spot on that it might be Jurassic Park.
That summer, yeah, you're right. I mean,
Batman '89,
the world, they resonate because Batman '89. All of a sudden that summer, I mean, holy cow, Michael Keaton, Batman, how dare they? Never going to work. Ew. Holy cow. This is our Batman. This is my Batman. You are spot on with Jurassic Park, because then all of a sudden it was T-Rex fever. I still have it.
Yep.
I caught it. I have it. I gladly have it.
Yep.
I will say, I think the Avengers movies resonated culture. Like, everybody had to see those movies and see the completion of it. So not necessarily, it didn't necessarily resonate with me, but I could see that it was happening in society. Like, that was where you had to be that summer, and it's all you heard about. I don't know. I think we have these small little moments with horror, but it's so tiny in comparison to when, a Jurassic Park or a Jaws or something like that. But even this summer, on just a little tiny little like seismic scale, that movie In a Violent Nature came out, and it resonated because it was something new. Now, whether people went and agreed with that afterwards doesn't really matter. It had that moment of, is this a new director for slashers? Longlegs, exactly.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen either one.
Going Tuesday to Longlegs. Shannon's seen it, and she promised not to spoil it for me.
When Shannon posted, because I saw your story, like, seeing Longlegs tonight, I was like, now I can't look at this broad's Instagram for however long, because I'm sure she might spoil it.
No, but the review I wrote is actually spoiler free.
Oh, all right.
It's so good that way. It's literally actually just my thoughts
and even
on it.
Even so, and I hate to turn this into like Longlegs talk for like a second, but
no, this is what it's all about. Yeah.
Part of me and Shannon, as the only one of us three who's seen it, part of me feels like, I don't know, Silence of the Lambs already exists, so why am I in such a rush to see this? Like, Osgood Perkins, I like him, but make fucking Head Full of Ghosts already, you dork. Like, just do it. Pull the trigger. make it happen, get it done. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm totally off base with Longlegs being just seems like Silence of the Lambs to me, but I hope I'm off. I know he wears some sort. I hate that fucking picture that shows his lower face. I hate that because I would have liked to have seen that with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Just like I hate all the spoilers that have come out for fucking Wolverine and Deadpool. I don't need to know that a certain vampire hunting badass has come back. I don't need to know that. I think that's, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Shannon's sitting here like, dummy. Don't be worried about those things,
No.
you orange tank top wearing idiot. But like, I
Don't
don't
put
want
words in my mouth.
What's that?
Don't put words into my mouth.
But I think like I worry about, and again, the Avengers stuff, to Sean's point, I don't think we'll ever have, because like when you think of Jurassic Park as like the last like watershed film moment, which by the way, Terminator 2, we dropped the ball by not mentioning Terminator 2. But like Terminator 2, then Jurassic Park, back to back years, but like we didn't have the spoiler culture that we have now, and we don't have like the media frenzy over things like we have now in terms of like anticipation and lead up and blah blah blah. Like just this morning, I watched footage from San Diego Comic-Con from some schmuck's phone of that Fantastic Four trailer. And if I'm not, I would be lying to you if every fiber in my body did not get excited about it. Because I love the Fantastic Four. I love Galactus. I love that cast. I don't know who Susan Storm is. I don't know that actress. Sorry. But I like the guitar boy from Stranger Things. And I love Eben Moss-Bachrach. He's been one of my favorite actors since Girls. And everybody loves Pedro Pascal. But like, I watched that and I got so thrilled. And then when I saw that little money shot at the end, I kind of went like, I was like, they're going to do it. And I got really thrilled by it. And then I watched the reveal of who's playing Dr. Doom. And
I learned about it this morning.
Yeah.
How can you not? It's just everywhere. Even if you don't want to see it, it's everywhere.
I don't know how. I don't know.
Yes, that's my reaction too. I was like, huh? But okay.
I mean, it's not real. Obviously, he's not really going to be in the suit, just like he wasn't actually in the suit as Iron Man. But like, when I hear Dr. Doom in my head, it sure as fuck doesn't sound like Robert Downey Jr. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. So like, it just doesn't click. It doesn't work for me. I don't know. Like, what's his face, the guy who played It? What's he doing? Why couldn't they have gotten him? What's his nuts? Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård?
What's he doing? Throw him in the mask. He's creepy.
Isn't he Nosferatu? So he might. I feel like he might be. I don't know. I feel like he's probably busy.
I hope so. He's great. Yeah. But like,
I think.
I know. It feels less like, hey, we're going back to that childlike wonder that you had when you saw the teaser trailer. And then, Downey takes the mask off and it's like, oh shit, that's right. This is a corporation that's in trouble. And they found a Downey-sized Band-Aid to plug the gap while they try and figure out how to resuscitate the patient. But you know what? Maybe that patient needs to die. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
You had a good run.
People
don't know when to walk away.
I completely agree. And as much of a DC guy, hello Watchmen tattoo, but like as much of a DC guy as I am, I would like to have seen a little more news at a Comic-Con. Give me something more than a cartoon trailer for Creature Commandos. Give Daddy something.
Right?
Shoot it into my veins. Give me some footage from Superman. Give me anything. Fantastic Four, which by the way went into production after Superman. Why is there a fucking trailer for that and not for Superman, DC? What are you doing to my boy?
Yeah. Ugh.
So I don't know, but like the idea of I just don't think we'll ever have a moment like that. But and again, the Fantastic Four trailer, I have never heard a crowd so quiet watching something in a theater in almost a decade, watching the trailer for that Fantastic Four movie. And I think for me, that's a big reason why I feel like we'll never have a big filmic cultural moment, is because really the audiences, I know for me, audiences have ruined movies. I saw the Ghostbusters movie, the new one or whatever, and my number one thing, first of all, I loved it, but also my like most surprising reaction to that movie was how fucking quiet the audience was during it, because I can't remember the last time an audience was actually quiet during a movie, or not playing with their phones constantly, or not running,
Right?
like kids running around the theater. And it's like, I can't enjoy anything. It's the reason I rented the theater to go see the Batman when it came out,
Yeah.
because I don't want anybody ruining it. And I said to the wife, I was like, the next time I rent a theater, it's gonna be for Superman and the Fantastic Four, because they're supposed to open against each other, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do a
Oh,
double feature of the two of them. And she's like, oh, well, that's a lot of money. And I was like, I don't give a shit. I need to see them on the big screen, and I need it to be quiet so I can focus. I even toyed with the idea of just sitting by myself and having my wife sit far behind me so I could just sit and just stare up at, Robert Pattinson as the Batman. But like, it's just, it's so infuriating. And I never saw Jurassic Park in theaters, because I don't know, I was 9, and loud noises freaked me out at the time. I don't remember, like, I was very intimidated by the noise that it could make, and so I didn't see it in theaters. But I read the book, and then we read it in school too, in the lead up to it, which was pretty neat. And then when I finally did see it, I was like, I really regret not seeing this in theaters. And I still haven't seen Jurassic Park in theaters. And talk about, it's interesting now that I'm putting this in my idiot brain. Two Spielberg movies that changed the landscape for film, who have
mhm.
all had diminishing returns for sequels. Because, I mean, I enjoyed Jaws 2, and I enjoyed Jaws 3, and I enjoyed aspects of Jaws 4, as ridiculous as it is. But, like, they're not very good. And the Jurassic Park sequels, including Jurassic World, in my opinion, are absolute dog shit. So it's crazy that that's happened to him twice with franchises.
Yeah,
It's so weird.
Mm.
That's really weird.
yeah. I guess he has good ideas.
No, I guess,
I
yeah, the
I
master.
guess so.
I've got a special relationship with Jurassic Park. I saw that in Manhattan at the Ziegfeld. The Ziegfeld,
Cool.
R.I.P.
Yeah, that's
God,
cool.
what a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
So, I was on the cusp of breaking up with my girlfriend at the time, and we went with a group of friends, and I just I need to get out of my headspace. So I always have this special. I love that movie, but it means a lot to me, the night I saw it, because it wasn't a great time in my life. I mean, I knew things were ending, and everything was just like, when that emotion's just so raw, you just can't get away from it.
Yeah.
But I got to go into this beautiful theater with an enormous screen, and the sound was amazing. And for 2 hours, I was able to get out of my head, and that's, you imprint these moments of your life on these films,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's indelible. You
Yeah.
can't separate them,
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
So-
like,
sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, when my dad got to see Avengers Infinity War Part 1, that was the last one he got to see. And then I think Endgame came out. Like not long after he passed away, because my dad passed away in February 2019. I feel like Endgame came out probably that summer. I don't really remember, but it was definitely before. It's definitely before COVID.
Yeah.
But it was like right before COVID, because it made an ocean of dough. And when that movie came out, I went to like a one of the earlier showings. I love the Farmingdale multiplex over there, the really big one,
Yeah.
I love that theater. In terms of like, the big chains or whatever. I've never been to an Alamo draft house. I'd like to go because I know they're very strict about phones and stuff. They're not
They're really
I am
good.
about that stuff. So like I went to Avengers Endgame and I bought 2 tickets, one for me and one for my dad, even though he wasn't there. And I went and sat in the seats that I always choose the back and to the left in the theater because I don't want anybody behind me. And usually people don't want to walk up the stairs too far because they're lazy. And so I capitalize on not having people around me by doing that. And I had the 2 seats, one for me, one for my dad, who had obviously passed by that point. And I sat there and almost nobody else came into the theater. There was like one other person that came in for the screening. And the movie had just opened. And, it was making a ton of dough. So I was kind of
Yeah.
surprised that it wasn't more filled. And I just sat there and I watched the movie and I I liked it. I didn't love it. It was clip show the movie, which was fine. But then when Iron Man makes his Hail Mary at the end and dies, I started crying in the theater, thinking about my dad, obviously, and like just thinking like I wish he could have seen this. And I put it in my Instagram post today. Like every time I see a horror movie or a movie that I know he would watch, I think about what he would think. And he would still think Jaws is the best thing ever, which it is. Like it's but I
He's
think about stuff like that, and I think about that time, and I think about like renting the theater for the Batman and how that would have just been me and him there. And I think about like how I tried to do that for Batman versus Superman, and it didn't work out. And just stuff like that. Like I think about those things all the time, and it's all because how much he loved movies, probably because of how much I love movies too, because he put that in me. And so did my mom. My mom loves her movies as well. Like she watches a lot of movies and stuff, and she always has. She was more science fiction. My dad was more horror. So I got best of both worlds from the two of them. But like, I think like so much about Jaws and how much it means to me, and it's just tied to him all the time. And it's like I just want to feel something like that again. And I think the closest I felt was Ready Player One, with how much I loved something and
Mhm.
how much it meant to me. As much as I love and I can't watch the movie because I get very emotional, it still means something to me. In the same way that
Yeah.
Halloween means something to me because it was my dad's like second favorite movie, and like all of those things. And I remember we were at a Chiller theater when I was a kid. I was maybe 12 or 13, I don't remember. And we went to Chiller theater and we were just walking. It was like the last day. We were walking around the dealer's room or whatever. And this guy, one of the autograph people, had this amazing framed piece, and it had pictures of Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, and Roy Scheider in it, and it had all 3 of their autographs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it had the certificate and everything, and it had like pictures to go with, like, because like the Robert Shaw one was from like he was doing some play in the city, and Dreyfuss was like on set or so. I don't know, it was something like that. And we were standing there looking at this picture, and my dad was like hemming and hawing about buying it because it was his favorite movie, and it wasn't cheap. But then like eventually the guy who was selling, because it was the last day, like was like, here, I'll do it for this price. And I was like, Dad, if you don't buy it at that, like, you're crazy. So he
Yeah.
bought it and we displayed it in our dining room for the longest time. And then when he passed away, it was one of the things that I inherited. So I have it in the closet behind me. I don't have it in me to like put up a lot of his stuff in this office, but in my next office there will be more of his stuff up, and that's like the first thing that's going up, that's I'm finding a place for. And it just means a lot. And it and then afterwards we did that thing out in Guildhall in the Hamptons, and that was magical. And just any time I got to share a Jaws thing with him meant the world, whether it was a book or I think one of the things I told him about was they're making a documentary called "The Shark Isn't Working" or the shark is still working or something. One of those documentaries, and it's great, but he never got to see it, and I think he would have gotten a kick out of it. So,
Yeah. Can I put something on your radar, Robert? Or well, both of you, and all Sinners, actually, if you're interested. I know, like, you're not a huge fan of crowds, but I kind of want to throw this out there. So, doing research for this episode, I found out that apparently there is such a thing as Jaws Fest. So I'm going to go with a year from now, next summer, this film is going to be 50 years old. 50th anniversary. I want to get an army to go to Amity and Martha's Vineyard next summer. I don't know the dates just yet. I don't even know if they announced them just yet, but I think Sinners, you should kind of keep an ear out for it, and everybody should go and be on the island where they filmed Jaws for its 50th anniversary. And if we plan it now, I think it could work. I kind of feel like I'm being like V from V for Vendetta right now. Like, join me 1 year from today, and we will declare justice for Bruce.
I would be down for that as long as it doesn't interfere with, because I'm going to be at StokerCon in June.
So are we.
Oh, sweet! That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
Oh yeah, that would be the only factor, Sinners, actually.
Yeah. True.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense to do it in June. They would have to do it either like 4th of July weekend or the weekend after or something.
Yeah.
I
The official release date was
down.
June 20th, but I would think more into the summer would be prime. Yeah,
I would do that.
Yeah, we're
I would
trying.
absolutely go to Jaws Fest. I didn't know that because I remember they did it for the 40th, or the 30th. I don't remember, but like, I would definitely be interested in going to that. I think that would be a lot of fun. I haven't been to Martha's Vineyard since I was a kid, so like, yeah, I'd be down. I know, it's obviously different, but like the vibe is still there. Like it's all there. Like you can see all the same shit. Yeah, I would definitely be into that. Keep me in the loop with that because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Of course,
We certainly will.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
All right, sweet.
All right, and our crowd grows.
Yeah,
our little Jaws gang grows.
To say yes.
Robert,
when I met Stephen King, I had a Jaws shirt on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
This is where I'm going to brush up. This is where I'm going to probably make myself cry, but it needs to be said. You talk about your dad and these experiences you had, going to movies together. And if you're lucky enough to have those people in your life, that introduce you to some movies, and kind of foster that, it's just so, you usually don't realize it till it's gone, but it's just it's so special. It's so magical,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully you pass that along to a friend or whoever, it's just like you kind of pay it forward with, hey, I think you might really like this and come with me. And I kind of do that. I've got a very special friend that we do that with all the John Carpenter movies. And every year we make it a point, no matter how far we have to go, we find Halloween 3 playing just so we can have that experience of seeing it together year after year after year. And it's kind of like a little special something for the two of us. Like we just keep it us two. And every Carpenter that's on screen, and there's a lot of stuff going on in both our lives, but we take the time and it makes it special. It adds to it. So, I just love hearing these stories about you and your dad seeing these movies, even though I know it's bittersweet now, but it's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I like talking about him. I like talking about Jaws. The things that matter to him matter to me, and they always did. And they matter to me even more so now that he's gone.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to like rep for him too.
Yeah.
So, like it's just weird. It's weird thinking of like, hearing him in my head still, like Christmas Vacation is another one of our movies that we used to watch together all the time, and like Jaws and all the movies that we loved together, and hearing his like little funny asides that he would make all the time, like with Jaws and stuff, and pointing out like the first time when I was a little kid, I remember him pointing out the shooting star that happens twice. Really, it happens twice, but like him pointing it out the first time and me not even realizing it in all the previous times I'd seen it. And then I'm like, oh, huh. And like him pointing out the barrels. I remember when I was a little kid, I thought there were like, this is such little kid logic, but I thought there was like fish in the barrels that made him jump around in the, and I think of that every time. And then I remember him explaining to me, no, little Robert, that is not why. Like, just little things like that. I always remember, and like watching Halloween and like hearing him in my head make the same kind of like silly jokes and stuff during that. And it's just like, it's weird. And it's like, I'm getting emotional now.
But it
Oh,
it adds to it. It just adds to it. It takes these beautiful little movies and it just grows.
yeah.
I love the
Yeah. Sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
Oh,
So
sorry.
it makes it something totally special. Like it's
Yeah.
that's all you can say. I mean, and you guys are their legacy. You have to carry it on. That's probably why you love movies so much, and why we feel the need to talk about it as much as we do, and you keep passing it on, because these movies, they're not just movies. They're literally, like, if you really think about it, especially, I think, more so this film especially, but like we kept saying, like they all had something personal to us. Like there was an experience, watching it, even not just the first time, but time and time and time and time again. I definitely can't wait to tell you my Exorcist story, Robert.
I'm like dying to hear it.
Do you want me to talk? Do you want me to tell you now?
Yeah, let's hear
yeah.
Okay. So, my first experience with The Exorcist. So, this was at an age where, I think I've said it before, where the first place I was able to walk up to with my friend was the video store. So we would rent, the typical, and by this point we saw all the typical 80s movies, the slashers, all the Jasons, all the Michaels that came out by then, Freddy's, what have you, amongst other fun horror movies from that time. So, my friend across the street was having, like my first experience of a slumber party. Also, for her birthday, she's having a slumber party. So we wanted to, do the typical stuff where you turn out the lights, we watch a scary movie. So I went to my dad for advice. And I asked my dad, I'm like, I've seen all the horror movies there is, coming from an 11-year-old, but whatever. And I'm like, I saw everything that there is to see, and he's like, I got a movie for you. And he told me to get The Exorcist. Now, he never told me what the film was about. He only told me his experience. So his experience was when the film came out, opening weekend, I think he had to work during the day. And all of his friends, with anticipation, couldn't wait, went and saw it without him. And obviously we're talking up the film, like, it's fucking crazy, blah, 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 this and that. And my father's like, I can't be the only person that didn't see this movie. So he went by himself. And he's like, I was in the front row, got my popcorn, got my soda. He's like, I was ready to go. And he goes, Shannon, by the time the movie was over, I was in the last row. I bolted out the door and I slept with the lights on for a month. And I'm just sitting with my little 11-year-old eyes like, oh, really? So lo
Can
and
we watch it today?
So lo and behold, I was not ready or prepared at all, but we watched it and we were fucking terrified. Absolutely terrified. So then,
How could you not be?
Right.
I mean, it's just you're nightmare fuel, and you're 11.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
so
I
fast
love
forward.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
You lived.
So fast. I know. I made it. So I fast forward when they re-released it, right? I think it was like the 25-year anniversary with the new footage that they didn't put in the original, came out around my father's birthday. I'm like, Dad, come on, we gotta go see it. And he immediately was like, yeah, we're gonna go. Oh. And I'm going to apologize to my father ahead of time. But my father, he's a tough guy. Never seen him really scared at all, but I did make a point to look at his face in the middle of seeing it again, with just me and him going to the theaters to see it. And I've never seen that look of fright on my father's face ever. And I'm like, it still resonates. In a way, I felt this was like a little bit of my payback.
That's awesome.
It's so great. It's so great when you can kind of take away the veil and you're like, oh, I see you. I see you. Let me tell you guys quickly about 1975, seeing this when I was 6.
Yeah.
This was exactly what you hear. Line was around the block. Saw it in it was the theater that was in the center of Bell Boulevard and Bayside. One screen, giant screen. My parents had already seen it. Now, I'm the youngest of 3. My brother was 6 years older than me, and my sister's 8 years older than me. So we go in there, and my parents were kind of waiting for Ben Gardner's head to pop out when Hooper's looking at the hole in the boat. And they're looking at me, and they're looking at me. My parents they're fucking evil. Thinking about it now, because they really were like, he's going to jump. I had the popcorn in my hand, and I jumped off my seat, and the popcorn went up. It's like in the, you see it. It's like, a meme. The popcorn goes up. It goes all over the place. And I swear I almost cleared, because these are the old seats. I almost cleared the seat, ending up in the row behind me. That's how hot it jumped up. And it scared me on a molecular level so much that it became an obsession. I wasn't aware of it, but at that moment, it became my favorite movie. And it's like, we talk about this with Robert, we talked about it with you, we talked about it with Clay, we'll be talking about it with everybody, Sadie and Emily. You're always chasing that thrill. I think that's why we love horror, because we just always chasing it. And sometimes I've come close, but I'll never be able to duplicate that. But that was it right there. I mean, Ben Gardner's head coming out, I'm done. Yeah. It'll never get better than this. And this is my movie going forward. And it was, just from a cultural standpoint. I mean, I told you about my cousins in Ireland, but it was Jaws mania, Jaws, everything Jaws. You couldn't get away from it even if you wanted to, and I certainly didn't. It was on the radio with Mr. Jaws. It was on TV, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys Mystery, and they're at Universal Studios, and she falls in the pool, and Jaws goes to get her, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Who's controlling the shark? The shark's not real. She's in no danger whatsoever, other than drowning. Right. It's like, Nancy Drew, get out! Nancy Drew, get out! It was in our comic books and our breakfast cereals, and it was just everywhere. And I just wish I could go back. I wish I could go back in time and relive it as a 6-year-old kid all over again, because it was incredible. It was just fucking incredible. And then Star Wars comes along, and my head exploded.
But in a different way, right? Like,
Star Wars in a completely different way.
That's an adventure movie.
That is an adventure movie. Yes. That's 100% right. And then 1980, Indiana Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. And then my dad's telling me, he's like, you don't understand how special this is for me, because I went to these serials as a kid. We would go, for a nickel, we'd go to the movies on a Saturday, and we would see 7, 8, 9 movies. And we were there the entire day because our parents just wanted us to get the fuck out of the house, and he's, I could see, because I didn't have any experience with what he was experiencing, but I was looking at the nostalgia and the joy on his face. Like you guys are seeing it on my face right now when I'm talking about Jaws. Like, it's right there for you to see. And I love that. I just drink it in. And I miss my dad.
There's a great line in, and this is a movie that I don't know anybody likes. I love this movie so much. And I hate to bring him up again, because I know he's a controversial guy, but in M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water, I love this movie dearly. But there's a line that he's kind of a legendary character actor and legendary Broadway guy, Bill Irwin. He was in My Blue Heaven, but he's in Lady in the Water, and he has this moment and it hits different as I get older. But like he has this moment where he says to what's his name, Paul Giamatti, he's like, I wanted to believe that it was true. I wanted to be like a kid again. It's like
Yeah.
that's how I feel too. Like
Yeah.
whenever I want that thrill and I want to feel like a kid again watching something, and like I had it for a moment today when I saw that Fantastic Four trailer,
Aw.
and like when I get excited about something, and when I like I got to show my wife the movie Heat, and she'd never seen it before,
Aw.
and like watching her watch it, I got excited because I got to see it again through her like exposure to it the first time and stuff. And just like we are always chasing that stuff, and it's like an addict in a lot of ways. Like we just want the
Yeah.
next hit, and we want it to be better than the last one, and so often it's not. And I can't remember the last time I got like a real thrill of like super excitement in like a movie. Maybe like how many times I watched the Batman trailer over and over and over again. But like even then it was different. It just wasn't the same. Like, and it's great. I love it. Maybe The Dark Knight might have been the last time for me where I felt true exhilaration and like, oh my God, this is what movies can be.
Yeah.
And I guess, and that wasn't as cultural, in that way, but it was certainly like the biggest movie of all time for a long time until stupid Avatar came along. I love Avatar, but like, like that's maybe the last time for me. And again, that's a movie with me and my dad because we saw it 12 times in the theater.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a record.
My dad made a vow. We used to go to Florida. We had a house in Florida. We'd go there to vacation, like March, April-ish during spring training. So March. And
Nice.
the Academy Awards are always in March. And Heath Ledger was nominated, obviously, posthumously. And we used to watch all the time because, again, we were big movie guys. And Ledger's nominated. And my dad, like right before Best Supporting Actor category comes on, he turns to me. This is not a joke. He turns to me and goes, if Heath Ledger does not win the Academy Award, I will never go to a movie ever again. And I was like,
Oof.
what? And then it happens and he won. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like the dead.
You're like, whoo!
Putting a lot on this. But yeah, that was like the last time I think true. I don't think I've ever heard louder applause or excitement in a movie than when Jim Gordon takes his mask off and reveals that he's not dead and they capture the Joker. I've never heard a pop louder from a crowd in my life. But like, again, the most scared reaction is still Jaws. Like seeing Jaws in the Hamptons with a bunch of rich people, they all jumped when Ben Gardner floated into view. It works every single time. The Exorcist works every single time.
Yep.
And that matters. And like, it matters to us as film nerds, but it matters, like we've been saying, like with the connections to our family. I loved that Exorcist story. You saw it younger than I did. I didn't see it until high school. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
I still haven't seen it. Is it good?
Yeah.
I would have driven to where you are and brought it and been like, we're watching it now.
So the only answer I have, Sean, is you will bow to it.
Hey, look, and now we have Mike Flanagan. He's going to take his crack at it. It's exciting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I have a take. Can I give a take on Mike Flanagan?
Of course.
I think it's a safe pick. I think it's a kind of a snoozy safe pick. I like Mike Flanagan. I fucking hated that vampire thing on Netflix. I hated it. I was so disappointed.
Midnight Mass.
Yeah, I've never been more disappointed. But I think he is a safe, perfectly cromulent choice for an Exorcist movie. I don't think you can make, and I loved Exorcist Believer. Don't get it twisted. Everyone's like, duh, I don't like that. I don't care. I loved Exorcist Believer. I've watched Exorcist Believer at least 20 times. I'm a David Gordon Green cuckoo bird. I don't think you can make an Exorcist movie that hits as hard as the original.
Yeah.
As good as Exorcist 3 is, it ain't the original. And that's not a bad thing. It's good to be different. Like, that movie should be what it is, which is more of a police procedural. That's exactly how it should be. But you can't do The Exorcist anymore because nobody, and I hate to say this, your religious listeners are going to get upset. Nobody gives a shit about church anymore.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I'm not Catholic. I'm Italian, but I'm not Catholic. And like,
I think there's a lot more
religious
information out there now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Catholic,
but
but I escaped. So, I just...
All right. So yeah, I like the idea of the mysteries of faith and all that stuff and exploring it, but like, I don't think general audiences like that. So I don't see, they kind of, they did it. We were lucky to have The Exorcist,
Yeah, and at the moment that it was made, I mean, it was you hit the nail right on the head. Uh-oh.
No, I'm
Oh,
here.
no.
I'm here. I just turned the camera off and turned it on because I couldn't see it anymore.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's different times. It certainly is different times. And honestly, you're 100% right. No one gives a shit. There's no stakes.
Nope. And it's fine, like, if you don't believe or whatever, but I think we've gotten to like the edgelordy part of like, there's no such thing, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, all right, fine. If that's how you, maybe you're right. I don't know. Who knows? None of us know. And that's really, if Mike Flanagan goes that route, that could be really interesting. But I don't think he will.
I'm interested to see where it goes. But I agree with you, and we brought it up earlier in the podcast. Sometimes you just need to walk away from stuff. It is what it is. It's it's there if you want it. Let's go to something new now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why a lot of the recent horror this year, I think it's been a great year. We've gotten some really original things. They've been smaller, which is exciting as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a real good year so far. Some original voices, some original concepts, and some fun. Yeah.
We've been spoiled a little bit this year.
Absolutely. All right, gang. I'm gonna wrap it up there so I can go have a real good cry. Robert, can't thank you enough, man. I mean, honestly, we would just turn the camera on and talk all day to you. Look, please, previous guests who are listening, we love you all, but Robert, you're just one of our damn favorites for sure.
Thank you.
We love having you on. We'll keep you in the loop with Jaws Fest, but if you think you're even remotely done with us, we'll circle back. We know you have a lot on your plate right now, and we're sending all the good vibes, fingers crossed with get that damn house. When you get settled, let's definitely connect. I'll be bugging you, but because I'm also, I just want, from a personal level, I want to make sure everything works out okay and you get your dream,
God, thank you.
So,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we'll stay on top of that, but let's circle back for something for the fall. And I'd actually like, if it's okay with you, dealer's choice, why don't you let us know what you'd like to talk about?
Cool.
Because we've done 2 now where we ask you. So whatever you want to talk about, we're cool with.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm always down. So, and I can't thank you both enough for making me cry, and my second time crying today, and I'm just glad that you gave me an opportunity to talk about a movie that really means a lot to me and meant a lot to my dad, and means a lot to all of us, clearly. And I loved getting to hear Shannon's Exorcist story. That's hysterical. I loved hearing about how it was in '75. I love stuff like that. So it really means a lot to me as well. So thank you both for having me.
Loved having you on. Can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
All right, Shannon, take us out of here.
All right, Cinners, and that's a cut.
Bye, Robert. Till next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Shortcuts. I hope you enjoyed hearing it just as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. If you did enjoy it, would you please leave us a review on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the bathroom wall at the local gas station, wherever. We'd really appreciate it. If you rate and review us, it goes a long way to getting the word out about Sinful Cuts. Can't thank you enough. Until next time,